what man has the right to tell me that I can't go out and smoke something that grows naturally if I choose to? And it really, first of all, when you're in that kind of pain, every minute seems like an hour. So I can safely say in that 4 days, I spent 3 months thinking about that thought, okay? Who can tell me? Probably a month after that, I happened upon a paper by John Stuart Mill on liberty. Are any of you familiar with that? If you're going to be doing this kind of advocacy, this kind of work, you have to get familiar with it. Because, quite frankly, it's a genius treatise on personal liberty. Okay? About the idea that in a society with shared values, just where do my rights end and yours begin? Okay? And the entire paper, it's a little thick reading, but it's good reading. The entire paper can be summed down up to, you going to tell me? Okay, De Niro would do it like, yeah, tell me. But it really, he gives it a brilliant philosophical treatment of just where do you derive the right to tell me I can't do what is essentially a victimless crime. Okay? And I want to kind of talk a little more about the notion of a victimless crime. Because we have pursued these drug policies on what is a victimless crime, you know, if there's a rape or a murder or a robbery, it's real apparent that a crime has been committed. There's a victim, and hopefully the victim is able to call the police and get them to intervene or do their thing. With the victimless crime, there's an entirely different stance or attitude the police have to take. They almost have to become a police state if they're going to go after that crime. They have to insert themselves into your lives. Now, the Supreme Court has facilitated this by allowing explicitly for the drug war, allowing anonymous tips that can lead to warrants, okay? Allowing seizure of property without a conviction, allowing roadblocks, dope dogs, allowing all kinds of things in terms of search and seizure, property rights, that were never allowed in the history of this country. But if you're going to pursue and police victimless crime, you need to insert yourself into people's lives in order to police it. I can't wait for you to call me. You know, there was a case a couple months ago, some guy got stoned, called the police, and reported himself. Okay? That's, yeah, the police would be like the Maytag repairman if they had to wait for that call. You know, once every 15 years, they get someone so stoned on chronic that he turns himself in. Okay? They've also allowed for the drug war funds itself, it perpetuates itself. It's a constant kind of jobs program for police in that we get to keep what we kill. And we get to fund ourselves and we get to grow. And like any organization, the more growth you have, the more opportunities for advancement. And so police in the criminal justice system have a real interest in perpetuating this drug war. And so if you're going to debate this with your average police officer, you've got to keep in mind that they have a rational interest, whether they'll admit or not, in perpetuating this myth. Okay? They're not going to buy into the argument that, well, pot's okay just because alcohol is more dangerous. That's just not even a valid argument with someone who's making their living, putting milk on the table from the drug war. Okay? And that's why I would invite you to explore for yourself, I think, the deeper arguments of ideology, liberty, and arguments around the idea simply of, like I was talking about with John Stuart Mill, you know, you tell me what I can do with my body type of thing. But you have to learn tact in terms of how you're going to approach those arguments and win those arguments. Okay. check where I'm at. What I'd like to do now is, I want to do one more thing, actually. Currently, did anybody catch the comments last week when Obama did the internet forum thing?
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those people who wants Obama to succeed. You know, LEAP does not endorse parties or candidates, but I, as an individual, not a LEAP member, I was out knocking on doors for Obama, okay? And I think last week was the single weakest moment of his presidency. To me, it was almost identical, or it mirrored Sarah Palin knocking community activists, okay? It was just, it was craven, it was, I don't even, for a person who doesn't mind making the most simple problem complex in terms of his willingness to kind of think it through, you know, fully, and take a 180-degree look at it, I was kind of amazed the way he, you know, dissed 3 million people who asked a question. And then Robert Gibbs, his spokesman, in the last couple of days came out and was even dumber in terms of his approach to it, okay? So I think 2 weeks ago, for the people doing this type of work, there was a great deal of enthusiasm, like we've got some momentum after years. Now, I have to tell you that LEAP speakers have had death threats from fellow cops, have been fired from their jobs, the ones who are on active duty, have been stigmatized amongst their fellow officers, etc. So I know what it's like. In my case, I didn't face any of that. People just thought I was kind of crazy for my views, which is fine with me. I've explained to you how I came to them, and I have no problem explaining to anybody how I came honestly to my views. And if people want to think that's crazy, so be it. But I have to be true to who I am. And that's why I would invite you, if you're going to be doing this work, get to where you really know why it is you believe what you believe, and you can explain it in full, and then it really doesn't matter what people think. You know, you stand in full, a man or a woman with your own views, and no one can take that away from you. And you come across much better in an argument than just a simple, like I go back to the Seth Rogen thing. You know, weed needs to be legal because it's cool. That's not going to be a winning argument ultimately. Okay, but 2 weeks ago, it seemed we had a lot of momentum. Cafferty on CNN, and Andrew Sullivan, and people in the media are really starting to pick this argument up. There's a lot of discussion. The Huffington Post has an excellent article a week ago on legalization and the idea of revenue, so forth, that would be picked up from that, why it makes financial sense to do it. But then these comments from Obama last week, I don't know where that puts everything. I think it's a clear signal from the administration that they don't want any part of this issue, which is fine, because it puts more emphasis on the idea it's a grassroots movement. We need to work harder to make it.